The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
By tomorrow, I will rule the world!
You think he's gone? He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone.
Is this some radical new therapy?
You see?
Well, I must have not been paying attention when you were just talking to me. Do you think that you could repeat the question? And I listened more attentively. There must have been something in all of that nothing that wasn't quite so easy to see.
Why am I here?
Because you love me.
It's way too early to be doing this. But I do love you, that is true.
I know. I wasn't waiting for a confirmation.
If only I had a chance.
Sorry, buddy.
She's already taken. She's with Murphy.
I am.
Hey, do you see that? What's his name? Tom?
That is Tom.
No.
I'll be Tom for today.
Yeah.
No, the guy from the union that was supported me last time.
Oh, yes, Tom.
Yeah, see?
I'll think of it.
Do you ever hear from him?
I left him. He's not there anymore. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. Right. He was a good guy.
Good guy.
And his sister.
Yes. Troy.
Yes.
Troy.
Yeah.
Starring you and I. Everybody do the bop-a-bas at home. I didn't hear you doing bop-a-bas, Joyce. That's mine. That's mine. That's it. I'm supporting DJ Beauregard.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Like that would ever happen ever.
Yeah.
At this point.
Come on, leave DJ alone.
No.
Poor guy.
No, I won't. No. The most dishonest politician in this business. By far. All right, let's start the show. Hi, how you guys doing? My name's Tom Duggan here at the Paying Attention Podcast. Hi, top two guys smoke shop at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. Boy, the ratings for last week's show with Mayor Perry, that's doing pretty good.
Yeah,
I've been watching those numbers. They're just doubling and tripling like every day.
Yeah.
And boy, I'd love to talk about it, but we just don't have time. We've got a great show for you today. Now, listen, Tuesday is the election, November 2nd. Tuesday, this show is being taped early, but we're airing this on the Thursday before the election. I don't know what the date is. I don't have it in front of me. But Tuesday is Election Day, and that means if you live in a city in Massachusetts, you are voting for your municipal officers. What does that mean? Your mayor, your city council, your school committee, and in some communities you get to vote for things like library board of trustees or housing authority, things like that. I just want to take a couple of minutes before we get to Joyce to talk about what local elections are and what they mean. Whenever you need something from your community, think about what services your community provides. They pick up your trash. If someone breaks into your house or steals your car, you call the police. If you get a fire, you call the fire department. If there's a water main break, you've got a DPW crew that comes out and fixes it or paves a road in front of your house or fixes potholes. All of those things are being done by your local municipalities and being done with your tax money. The mayor of your community is like the executive. Think of him as the president of your community. The mayor of your community is in charge of executing the laws that are passed by either the legislature or the city council. So he's in charge of your police department, your fire department, your DPW. He's in charge of, not necessarily the school department because there's a superintendent, but he's chairman of the school committee in most communities. And the mayor is in charge of running the day-to-day operations of your community. So if you have a problem and a pothole doesn't get fixed and you've called DPW 6 times, your next phone call should either be to your city councilor, but really your next call should be to the mayor. Right? Because if you call the city council, then it becomes political. You want to call your local mayor, whether you're in Lawrence, Haverhill, Methuen, Lowell, wherever you live. If you're in a city, that's the chain of that's the chain of command. If you have a problem with a police officer, you go to the police chief. But if you don't get any satisfaction from the police chief, you go to the mayor because the police chief answers to the mayor. So the mayor is the guy at the top of of the food chain of your local community. And the police department, the fire department, the DPW all come underneath him. And they all have department heads. And those department heads are hired by the mayor. But they need city council approval. And that's the check and balances of local government. So if the mayor of Lawrence wants to hire a new fire chief, he sends out, he posts the job, he interviews people, whatever process he uses to get it down to one or two candidates. Then when he picks the person that he wants, it goes before your city council. Now, what does your city council do? Your city council is in charge of budget, policy, and contracts. And they're also in charge of, they're also responsible for approving or not approving department heads. So if a mayor wants to hire a police chief, a fire chief, a DPW director, some other minor jobs like city clerk who runs your city election department and keeps all the documents for the town in an orderly fashion, the mayor will hire the city clerk. Now, in some communities, in Lawrence, the city clerk is hired by the city council. In Methuen, the city clerk and I think the city attorney are hired by the city council, right? So there's always an exception to every rule. So every rule that I give you, there's going to be some kind of an exception. Your city council is also in charge of budget and policy. So when the mayor puts together what his proposed spending budget is going to be in each of his departments for next year, that goes before the city council, and the city council gets to say, yes, we like this spending plan, or no, we don't like this spending plan, come back with something else. They may want the mayor to cut $2 million out of his spending. They may say you're not spending enough. We don't think you're spending enough on police cars. We think you're spending too much on paper clips in the schools. So we want you to come back with a better budget. And then once they approve it, that becomes your city spending plan for the next year, the next fiscal year going forward. Fiscal year starts July 1st and it runs through June 30th. 31st, 30 days past September. Yeah, okay. Just checking. Going back to my school days, right? So that's basically how how each community works. And by the way, we're losing our democracy at the local level. So few people vote in local elections, especially in primaries. And then you have communities like Methuen who don't have primaries sometimes because they want to protect all of their incumbents. But when you go to vote and you're voting for a city council, most city councils are broken up. You have in Lawrence, I know Lawrence and Methuen. I'm not sure how. I think Haverhill does it all at large, but in Lawrence and Methuen, you have 3 at-large city councilors. That means everybody in the town, everybody in the city gets to vote on those 3 councilors, and whoever gets the most votes of the top, let's say there's 9 candidates, the top 3 will be on your city council, and they will be your councilors at large. And then there are district councilors. So in Lawrence, there are 6 districts, and A through F, A, B, C, D, E, F, right? I want to make sure I got to count on my finger. I went to Lawrence High School, so I'm not really that good at math.
I went to Lawrence High. It's a good school.
Well, maybe
it was.
Maybe back before they invented fire, it was a good school. But when I went, they were good at some things, but math was not one of them. And then you have your school committee. So your school committee, let's stick with city council for a second. So your city council approves the budget, but they also approve local ordinances. So, for example, if the cops come by and they say, hey, you're running your leaf blower, it's 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, the city ordinance says you can't be doing that until 9, they can give you a ticket for that because the city council created an ordinance, like a quality of life ordinance that says, for example, you can't use your leaf blower or you can't mow your lawn or use anything mechanical in your backyard until after 9 o'clock in the morning, for example. And that was like a big issue a couple of years ago with you guys in Methuen with the leaf blowing, right? So what happens at the local level, your local community, you have the most control over, right? I mean, who you vote for Senate, who you vote for president doesn't really affect your life as much as the people you elect to run your local municipalities, because let's face it, you guys are too busy living your day-to-day life. You guys are too busy going to work every day, trying to get the kids to school, helping them with their homework, paying the bills, all the things that you've got to do. And you don't have time really to pay a lot of attention to all the politics behind what happens in local government, but at election time you need to. And if you don't, please don't vote, okay? If you don't understand what your city council does, then please go online and educate yourself to what your city council does. But if you don't do that, please don't vote. I'm a big fan of voter suppression. I know that that's not hip today. We're not supposed to say that in the world of politics. There's rules, but I'm not a politician, so I get to say these things. All right? If you're stupid and you don't know what the mayor does, please don't vote. If you don't know who any of the candidates are and you haven't looked into their background, please don't vote. In fact, go pull a ballot and don't vote for anybody and leave it all blank if you're not sure what you're doing. Because otherwise you screw it up for the rest of us who do know what we're doing. Your school committee now, in most communities, your school committee is in charge of the budget and the hiring and firing, the school budget and the hiring and firing of the superintendent and the assistant superintendent. And pretty much that's it. They can also pass school policies. And that's pretty much it. So it's been a little bit unnerving for me observing what's been going on in Methuen lately. When I say lately, I mean over the last few years. Given the missing $4 million, a superintendent that wasn't certified. By the way, we still don't know where the $4 million went. I'm going to be talking to Joyce about that in a second. But what's going on in Methuen in the schools is just a tragedy. And yet in the last election, you had 5 people running for 6 jobs. So if you people aren't getting involved in your community, if the parents aren't getting involved in your schools, then your schools are going to continue to suck. And they'll continue to do stupid things like, rally people against Donald Trump for Black Lives Matter, teaching kids that Donald Trump is a Nazi, instead of teaching math and science and history. They'll be teaching them all about global warming and transgender bathrooms, but they're not going to be teaching them how to add and subtract and do division the right way. So you've got to get involved, people. Please, get involved. It's too late to run for office this year, but start thinking about it this year and educate yourself this year, because 2 years from now, we might need you to step up and run for office. All right, election is Tuesday. Please make sure you vote if you know what you're doing. If you don't, go out and do the research, and if you're not going to do that, please don't vote. We have in the studio with us Joyce Campagnone. She's a former counselor in Methuen. She's a former school committee member in Methuen, and she is on the ballot to she's running for at-large city council. So there are 3 incumbents, and we all know the rule of thumb in politics is 90% of the time incumbents get reelected. But since Joyce has been on the city council and the school committee more times than I can count, she's kind of running as an incumbent, so she's got a shot because everybody knows her name. Before we talk to politics, Joyce, your husband, Stephen, just passed away. And I want to give, on behalf of myself, paying attention, the entire Valley Patriot family. We had an editors meeting last night. We talked about this. He was a hero veteran. And before we talk any politics at all, I want to, let's pull up Steve's picture. We got that there. I want to give you an opportunity to talk. You were married for 57 years.
52.
52
yeah.
years. And
we were together probably 57, so
okay.
Thank you.
All right. And I want to give you a chance to talk about Stephen. And
he was a wonderful person.
His service to the community.
Oh, great service to the community. He lost 3 of his uncles in World War II, and the Campagnone Common is named after them in Lawrence. He was a wonderful person. He volunteered basketball. He refereed basketball. He also did Little League coaching and that. And he was just a great person and was always there to help. Yep. Was always there to lend a hand.
It's funny because I used to go to, before COVID, right?
Yes.
I used to go to all these bean suppers and all these spaghetti suppers and all these fundraisers that you would run, penny socials. And he was always there. He was always there in the background. He was either cooking food in the back with you, serving food. And he was very happy to take a back seat when you were running for politics. I think it's hard for a lot of guys when their wives get into politics because as guys, we're used to being the guys out front, right?
Right.
And so you would run and he would be in the background. He
was the signed person.
Yeah, but he didn't want his name in the paper. He wasn't looking for anything.
Never.
And he never seemed jealous of you either. He always was just so proud of you.
Very supportive.
Very supportive and very proud of you. And so when he passed away last week, I shuddered because I thought, boy, I hope Joyce isn't going to drop out now because it's a tough thing after 52 years to lose someone.
Yes. And, I did say it, and, excuse me.
That's okay. It's all good. And he was a good guy. I mean, he did a lot of stuff for the community, and whenever I ran into him, he was always happy. He was like the happiest guy in the world.
He told me it wasn't good. You're not dropping out.
He didn't want you to drop out. So... I'm sorry.
I apologize.
Listen, it's all good. Now, tell me. We'll regroup and get back to that. Tell me where did he serve? What was his service? Was he Army, Navy?
National Guard.
He was in the National Guard.
Yeah.
And did he serve during any war? Did he?
No,
he didn't.
no, he did not.
But he did a lot for the veterans. Like
Yes,
every time
'cause
I went to the
his
VFW, he was there.
Because of the three uncles that did serve in the
Right,
Army
right.
in World War II.
And they made a movie out of that.
Yes, the Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
In fact, the night that ran, that they were putting it together, all the TV stations came down to our house, and I had the clippings and all. You couldn't get down our street's a small street, Coverdale Avenue, and Steve was refereeing a basketball game, and they had called channel 7, 4, 5, 9, all of them, that they wanted to come down to interview him. And the poor guy, when he came home, he couldn't get down the street. All the TV stations were there, and they wanted to. He didn't know what was happening because he wasn't there.
Yeah, what's all this fuss going on?
Yeah, and they came through and they read, like I had the telegrams when Steve's grandmother got telegrams about the boys being killed and all that, and they were taking pictures. They were all over. I mean, the house was like just invaded with the TV people, and I mean, it made us feel good, because of Private Ryan. We know that wasn't about us, but it was a similar situation.
Right.
And it did hit home. It really did. So
they took a real story, like Hollywood always does, right? They changed it a little bit. But his three uncles were in World War II, and all, and there were four, or there were three.
There was four. It was Steve's dad also.
But three of them died.
Three of them got killed.
And they had to go in and find the fourth guy to make sure he didn't die and bring him home.
Right, and they fought. It was, I want to say, Lane. I think it was a Senator, Congressman Lane, and that was part of the people that went to bring Steve's dad home, and they really gave the family a hard time to get him to come home. But that was the way it was. I mean, he lost three brothers, and they had been together the night before. They all got deployed in their separate areas, and then they never saw one another again.
Right.
But
great movie, and by the way, great heroes.
Yes.
Right, great heroes, your family.
Yeah.
So when he went into the hospital a couple weeks ago, you were telling me off the air that you told him that because he was sick, you were going to drop out and take care of him. And what did he say?
No way, you're not dropping out. I'm telling you right now, you're in that race.
I can hear him saying it in the back of my head while you're talking.
You're in there. You went this far. You work hard, and you're staying in the race.
Good. Well, you know what? I'm glad that you did, because I think a lot of people might have probably just dropped out and said, I don't want anything to do with this.
But Tom, on the flip side of that, I'm sure there are people out there saying, what is she doing? She just lost her husband, and she's out there campaigning.
Right.
Well, I haven't gone campaigning or anything. I just, very low key. But this is what he wanted me to do.
Right.
And
he was such a strong supporter.
Right.
I mean, he was the one pushing you. I remember the last time that you ran, I said, Joyce, what are you running for? I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, and you seem really stressed out. You were really stressed at the end of your last term 2 years ago. I said, what are you doing this for? And as I'm saying it, your husband said, she's running, and she's going to win because she cares about this community, young Duggan. And I was like, okay. Like, don't.
And I
he got upset with me. He got upset with me because I was telling you, maybe you should just relax a little bit.
And I mean, I really enjoy helping the people. I'm not saying everything I do is right, but I try.
Yep.
And if somebody has a problem out there, they have a right to get answers for. They need to be represented. Really. It's their community like it is mine.
Right.
And you just don't take in, things for granted.
Right.
But he was such a supporter, and no matter if somebody called, we had a neighbor that the snow plows went by and knocked over her mailbox and that. And the poor thing was waiting over a week for her mailbox. Well, my husband went over and fixed it.
Oh, that's so nice.
My husband and my son, they went over there. And then the town did finally come. I mean, I know they have a lot of things to repair. So, I mean, but he was always right there to help, always. So.
And so have you. I know that I talked to I've been making a lot of calls for you. And telling people, listen, you got to give Joyce a bullet vote, right? And I've explained what a bullet vote is. It says you can vote for up to 3, but if you just vote for one person, it's like giving that person 3 votes. So I've been calling people, and one guy says to me, I called her about 10 years ago. I was having problems, and I think he said he had a kid in the high school that was having some issues, couldn't get anywhere with the superintendent, couldn't get anywhere with the mayor at the time, and he called you. He said, and within 24 hours, my kid's problem was solved.
Really?
I had another person who said to me that they're having problems with one of their neighbors, and that every time they called the cops would come and take the neighbor's side, but they had proof that the neighbors were harassing them, giving them a problem. And then they said they called Joyce Campagnone, and they said, the next day, the police came and knocked on my door, asked to see the proof that they didn't want to look at before, and they said, okay, fine, we agree, your neighbor's the one that's giving us the problem. That never would have happened without Joyce. So even though people, and I explained at the beginning that city councilors do budgets and policy, there's also another component to being a city council, and that's constituent services. The people who live in your district or the people who you represent that call you because they have a certain problem, they've tried to go through the process of a department head or some other person with the city, they're not getting any satisfaction, they call Joyce Campagnone or they call their city councilors and hope that it gets done that way.
Right. And can I also say, Tom, that whether you're a councilor in the West, the Central, or whatever, I was East District, I was at large, but no matter where the call came from, whether I was representing that area or not, I just feel I represent the whole town. So if you're calling me from the West and I'm a East District councilor, I'm not going to hang up on you.
Right.
I'm going to take the complaint and follow it through. It doesn't matter. You have a constituent.
And that's what makes you unique, because one of the things that I hated when Lawrence changed from an all-at-large city council to districts plus at-large is what I witnessed was, at least in the first 15 years of the Lawrence's charter, from 85 to like 90 or 95 or 2000, and it might still be going on, but I just don't live in Lawrence anymore. You'd call your district council and say, I really want you to do this, or I really want that, but your district council is against it. So then you pick up your phone, you call your at-large council, and the at-large council says, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to step on anyone's toes. You got to go through your district council. And I used to say to Roger Toomey, God rest his soul, he passed away last year. I used to say to Roger Toomey, well, you're the at-large counselor. I went to my district council, and he's against this. I need someone that can advocate for it. You're an at-large counselor. And he said, oh, no, you got to go to your... And I said, well, then why are you there?
Yeah.
Like, why are you there? And I'm not bad-mouthing Roger, because that's just a representative of many times that I've talked to many other counselors. I'm just using one example. But in Methuen, it doesn't really seem to work that way. In Methuen, it seems like the at-large counselors will take something in someone else's district if it's not being handled to the constituent satisfaction. That's the way it should be.
Yeah. And you know what, Tom? I feel no matter what section of the city you're in, if you have a complaint and you see me and you tell me, that's fine.
Right.
I'm a city councilor. I'm representing you. Mm-hmm. Just because you live on the west side doesn't mean, and I live in the central, doesn't mean I can't help you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work that way with me.
Right. So what are your priorities? Let's say that you win on Election Day and you get sworn in January. What is the first thing that you want to tackle? What's your priority hitting the ground?
Hitting the ground is representing the people the way they need to be represented, okay? And to be upfront with them and to make sure they're getting their money's worth. Mm-hmm. Because we all work hard for our money, we're all on a fixed income, and we need to budget appropriately. Right. Really.
So there's going to be a ballot question in Methuen. I believe the ballot question is about whether or not the people of Methuen want to have marijuana growing facilities. And I don't think it touches the retail. We're going to talk about that in our next show. Or actually, it's going to be last week's show, because by the time you see this, we're taping early. So there's going to be a question on the ballot now. Marijuana, marijuana is kind of like the abortion issue on the local level. Everyone has passionate feelings for it on both sides. People who don't want marijuana in their community for any reason are very passionate about it, and they don't want to hear any excuses. And the people that want it in their community are very passionate about it, and they don't want to hear any excuses either. So what do you think about this idea of having marijuana growing facilities in the city of Methuen?
I don't want it.
You don't want it?
No.
Tell us why.
Absolutely not. Why?
I think, by the way, I think that's a smart move. But why? But I'm curious as to why.
Because I just feel, well, if we're going to have that, let's start growing all the other,
drugs.
Drugs, okay? We can open up a field.
Set up poppy fields over on East Street.
And let's start growing it all.
Right.
We need to have control, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We need to have control over it, and we need to have people with the experience controlling it, not a free-for-all.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Excuse me.
So the marijuana question on the ballot, I think, and I haven't seen it because I went online. I tried to find it on the city website, and I couldn't. Maybe it's there. I just couldn't find it. So I don't have the exact wording, but I think it's for a growing facility. So you wouldn't want a growing facility, obviously, then you wouldn't want retail.
No.
No.
Because, let's face it, Tom, there's people out there that's going to make money on this, okay? And they're going to make big money out of our community,
Right.
okay? We need our community to be stabilized, and we need it to be safe for our constituents,
Right.
okay? That we don't need. Go down south, go somewhere else, but not in our community.
They can go to
okay?
Haverhill.
Yeah, let them go to Haverhill, let them go anywhere, but we don't. If we're going to do that, then let's just open up all the drugs,
Right.
okay, and have a free-for-all.
What do you say to the argument on the other side? I'm just going to play devil's advocate. That this is something that they're going to be growing it in Methuen but not selling it in Methuen, and it's going to bring a lot of tax money in that you can spend.
Okay, and how are they not going to sell it in Methuen? People can go over there and...
Well, if they have a growing facility, it would just be a growth facility that they would package up, put on trucks, and then send to places that do sell it in other communities.
Really?
You're not buying that at all? Okay,
no,
all right,
okay.
fair enough.
No, we don't need it in our community.
And thank you for the cookies, by the way. These cookies are delicious.
We do not need it in our community. You know what? We have people that are really sick and maybe need it for their sickness. Let the professionals, the doctors, oversee it, not have a free-for-all, okay? Well, then let's, we can give out prednisone, we can give out Valium, we can give out everything then, okay? Why do you go to the pharmacy then?
Right.
So, you have a control over that. So what is the sense?
Methuen-
The sense is because somebody's going to make millions of dollars on it.
So let's say Methuen votes for this anyway, and you vote against it on the council, but it passes, and now you're going to have a growing facility in Methuen. What do you do then? Are there things that you can do on the city council to pass ordinances to try and alleviate some of the concerns that you had before the vote, before you were against
Don't forget, this
it?
question got shut down before.
Right.
And it was brought back. It never should have been brought back. It was voted down, leave it down, okay?
Well, listen, I can't speak for her, but I'm pretty sure Linda Susi is watching this, and she's going to be voting for you based on your answers. She gets up at every meeting. She is so against this.
Right, and I don't blame her. That woman has worked so hard to bring her district in line that how many people would do that?
She's a real community hero.
That's right.
She is. And so are you, by the way.
Oh, not compared to Linda Susi.
She does an
believe me.
amazing job with the Methuen community,
she
Methuen
does.
Arlington neighborhood.
Right.
After-school programs for
Right.
kids. She does a lot.
And she doesn't look for the pat on the back,
Right.
never.
And she doesn't care if she pisses off either.
No.
And neither do you. And that's why
No.
you guys are a lot alike. You guys should be
No.
working together.
I don't. I just believe, and I'm a firm believer, and I mean this. We do not need the growing facilities in our community. I'm sorry.
Right.
We don't. Because we have enough of problems. Why are we going to add to it?
Right.
Our police right now, some days are overwhelmed.
Right.
Okay? And you mean to tell me this isn't going to bring out some more incidents that we don't need?
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I'm just the host.
No, I know. But you know what? The people that are going to make the money, are they going to take the money and run, or are they going to put it back into our community?
Well, maybe that's something that if it passes against your will, that maybe that's an ordinance that you can spearhead and say that if we're going to have it anyway against what I wanted,
then they're gonna
maybe
pay
a certain
dearly.
percentage has to come back to the community.
Exactly.
Now we talked about last week.
Not that I want the money,
Right.
but if we get
if
it,
you have to have it, then
if it's going to get shoved down our throats, then let them pay up front.
I would touch on that. But our next show that we're taping, which we're going to be doing live, is with the woman who runs the pot shop in STEM in Haverhill, and she's coming in to complain that the city of Haverhill is making them pay money for operating in Haverhill.
Oh, really? What,
so
do
it's
they
going to
wanna
be very
operate for
interesting.
nothing?
No, I think that the city and again, because I haven't talked to her yet.
Yeah.
She's going to be coming on in an hour. Although for you people it'll be last week. I think Haverhill is imposing some additional fees and stuff on them that they're not real happy about. So they're going to be coming in and talking about that. So you are going to be. What is the one issue besides this? What is the one issue you want to tackle come January? I know that the last time you ran, you and DJ had a big blowout where he accused you of being responsible for the misspending in the schools. And then all of the candidates on every debate that I did on every race last time around, they all said, pounding their fist, they're going to get to the bottom of that $4 million. And here we are 2 years later, nobody's done that.
Well, I believe now. What I was told is that $2 million of that, or close to it, went to the police department.
Well, but not the money that we borrowed, right? We borrowed $4 million to go to the schools.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and that did go in there.
But don't we need to know where the rest of that missing money went? We were told by the superintendent back then that it went to special ed, but it did not. A lot of it didn't go to special ed.
Busing and that for special ed. Right. That was true.
But they still overspent. They overspent.
Right.
They had a budget. They went over their budget, which is against the law.
Yeah.
They went $4 million, which is a lot of money. And everybody thinks that it's that it's the police department that's the reason why the city's in debt. It's not the police department. Police department had a balanced budget. The school department was the one that was over $4 million.
But the police department did get some of that money.
Some of the borrowed money.
Yes.
Right, but the missing money was all in the schools.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So are there any other issues you want to tackle when you get in? Is there like anything big to you that you want to sit down and work on right away?
To be honest to the constituents, let them know what's going on.
So just constituent services, that's where your strength is.
They need to know budget time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said it at our the other debate we had. Tom, when Mayor DeZoglio was in as the mayor, and it was budget time, and for some reason, I just thought this was a great idea. And I know a lot of people out there did also. Every councilor picked a representative to sit at budget time and go over the budget, and it was the constituents could see it firsthand exactly what was happening and what the procedures were. And I just thought it was a great idea that we had people from each district, and like I picked one, and every councilor picked one, and they sat in on the meetings and they gave their opinion and their input, and I just thought it made the people more interactive with the budget and understanding a little more, and letting them know that they do have a say.
Right.
You know, and I just think that means a lot. They pay their money, their taxes, their water bills. I mean, they should have a little say somewhere.
Sure.
You know? But we need to listen to them.
I think one of the things that Methuen does well that other communities don't do is because of the budget debacle of a few years ago, they are now, and I credit all the current councilors with this, including you who was on the council 2 years ago, they're now going line by line through the budget.
Right.
And as painful as that process is, and it is painful, especially when you got Jessica there who's got to talk for an hour on each semicolon, right? On page 97, there's a semicolon, and it's supposed to be a colon. And can you give me the history of semicolons? So it becomes very painful. But through that process, through the public being able to see the sausage being made, they do understand, I think, a little bit more about the details of where their money is going.
Tom, let me say this. Don't forget, I believe it was 2017, that they didn't want to go line by line.
Right.
They just wanted to adopt the budget and close the books.
And I remember you asking,
right?
hey, why can't we get some background on this? And you were just shot down.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's standard procedure. You go line item by line item.
Right.
You don't just, do you do your budget at home and you just go, oh, okay, here's $50.
Yeah,
close the
utilities,
book.
but you don't know what goes to electric, what goes to.
Exactly.
So why, if the city council has to do that, and I give them all credit, all 9 of them.
And don't forget, the constituents, they vote us in there to represent them.
Right.
They have a right to know what's going on.
Right. So if the city council does that now, and good for them.
Yes.
But the school department doesn't. The school committee doesn't.
Well,
they
they
present
should.
a budget to the school, to the city council. And I sat on a school committee in Lawrence.
Yeah.
And so I used to make people crazy at budget time. I'd say, how much money did we spend on paper clips? And they say, well, that's such a small pot. No. See, what I'm asking you is, I want to see the detail. I want to know how much you spent on paper
Right.
clips, how much on pencils, how much on copy machine fixing,
Right.
how much on mops for the janitors. I want to see a detailed. And if a constituent asks me, how much did you spend on paper clips, and I can't answer it, then I'm not voting for this budget. And so in Methuen, it seems like the city council got their act together for whatever we think about them
Yeah.
individually.
Yeah.
Right? They got their act together and they're doing a good job on that. But the school committee's still not doing it. Right? They're giving us numbers that are like, the special ed department has this
Right,
much money,
right.
but they're not telling us how much in that department,
between.
what's being
Right.
spent in that department. And I'm hoping if you get on, that you're going to be one of those people that says to the school committee, hey, look, I know you don't want to do more work, but I'm not voting for this budget unless we see details. I want to see how many paper clips did the Methuen schools purchase.
Right.
And if they can answer that question and there's a detail for that question, then at least the public knows.
Right. No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I do.
All right. Very good.
I
That was
do.
a lot
The
easier than I thought it was
people-
going to be.
The people have a right to know. It's
Right.
it's their dollar.
Right. Absolutely.
Really.
So listen, the election is, we got 4 minutes left. The election is on Tuesday. We would appreciate if you would consider Joyce Campagnone. She's
Number
been
one on the ballot.
She's been very good to the Valley Patriot. She is one of us. Her husband just passed away. Stephen was a veteran and was very good to our veterans. We want to thank Rich Russell, who works for the Valley Patriot, who's here with us, a Vietnam veteran. I love our veterans, and I always try. Also a veteran on this ballot on Tuesday in Methuen is Mike Downs. He's running for West District Council.
Yes.
And he's running against 2 incumbents, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can pull that off. Incumbents almost always wins. It's very rare when an incumbent loses in an election.
Right.
I was shocked when you lost 2 years ago because you were an incumbent and you'd been
Right.
on for so long. But it was such a bellwether vote 2 years ago. It was such an odd.
Yeah.
You can't. 2 years ago's election when Perry won for mayor was so different than all the other elections because you had so many more people voting that it changed at least for that election, changed all the rules, all of what we expect to happen. And Joyce ends up not winning. And
Right, because they put me that I voted for the police
contract, right.
and I wasn't there.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
people
That was another
listen.
DJ trick. DJ was telling people during that debate that you were.
And I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So how could I have been on both?
Right. So you got blamed on the schools, which you had nothing to do with. You got blamed on the police, which you had nothing to do
That's
with.
okay.
And that was at a time when so many people were voting.
Yes.
That I think the average person who doesn't pay attention and doesn't maybe watch this show or read the papers heard through the grapevine that you were in on that deal and they just voted no. And thank God we can correct that here. Do you have any last words? We got 2 minutes left.
Just put your interest in me and believe in me, and I will represent you to the best of my ability. And I'm a taxpayer like most of you people are, and I want what's best for our community and what's best for us. So there's no hidden agendas. You can call me anytime. You have a complaint, you have a suggestion. My phone is open to all of you. No matter whether it's the West, Central, East, I will represent you all to the best of my ability. And please don't forget to vote November 2nd. I'm number 1 on the ballot, and I will do you proud. Thank you.
All right, Joyce, we can roll this up. I want to thank our sponsors, McLennan Real Estate, AFC Urgent Care, Marsan and Son Construction, EIS Investigation and Gun Training, Borelli's Deli, where I'm going to get super hot sausages. Don Smeriglio, the mayor dimed me out after last week's show.
Oh, yeah?
As I'm walking to my car, Don Smeriglio texted me and says, the mayor says you're not happy with my sausage.
Uh-oh.
Thanks, Neil. Appreciate that.
So they made it extra hot for you now?
So he said, I'm going to make it extra special for you. Just text me when you're on your way.
Awesome.
So I'm going to be going to grab my extra special hot sausages from Borelli.
Oh, wow.
Thanks to the Paying Attention podcast, for sure. Also, Brian DePina, candidate for mayor. Please, if you're going to vote in Lawrence, vote for Brian DePina. He does not believe in white privilege. He doesn't believe in critical race theory. He's not on board with all this anti-white racism bullshit. He wants your vote. Also in Lawrence, Mark LaPlanta's on the ballot. Stephanie Infante is on the ballot. Rich Russell is running for city council at large. He's actually got a shot. Good luck, Rich. Melvin Taylor says we got to go home, but I want to thank Dave Consoli. Appreciate him. Pleasant Valley Landscaping. Clear Path for Veterans, New England. Tomo and Happy Crab. Melvin Taylor says you got to go home. So go home already.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.